Welcome to today's Financial Explainer. We're jumping right into the deep end of absolute market power to explore what we're calling the sole ruler inside a monopoly. It's a seriously fascinating look at power, pricing, and profit, and we're going to see exactly what happens when one single entity completely controls an entire market.
So let's nail down exactly what we're talking about here. A monopoly is basically a market structure entirely controlled by a single seller or sole producer providing a product that has zero close substitutes. When you think of a typical market, you usually picture a bunch of buyers and sellers negotiating back and forth, right? Well, in a monopoly, that whole dynamic goes out the window. The seller holds absolutely all the cards. To take this out of the textbook and ground it in reality, let's consider a couple of massive, real-world examples. Take Indian Railways, which is 100% owned and operated by the government of India. Or look at state electricity boards like the Punjab Electricity Board. These aren't just your everyday large corporations, they are the absolute sole providers of their services in those areas. You can't just casually choose a competing railway network to ship your goods across the country, right? It's their way or the highway. So how do these sole rulers actually pull this off? Well, we're going to break down their dominance into 5 defining features: the single seller, the absence of close substitutes, closed entry, acting as a price maker, and finally, price discrimination. Let's walk through them.
Starting us off with feature number 1, the single seller. This is where the firm essentially is the industry. Think about that for a second, because there is literally only one producer. The firm and the industry are completely identical. It's wild when you compare it to normal markets, where a firm is just one tiny slice of the industry pie. Here, they're the entire pie. And because of that, the monopolist dictates the market supply and has complete, unchecked influence over the price. No individual buyer, no matter how much cash they're spending, has any leverage to negotiate.
Moving right along to feature 2, the absence of close substitutes. Basically, a market totally devoid of competition. You see, monopolies thrive because you simply can't find a close substitute for what they're selling. Now, a close substitute is just a good that can be easily swapped out for another, usually available at nearly the same price. It's like choosing between 2 different brands of toothpaste. But in a monopoly, that luxury of choice totally vanishes. There is no easy swap. Now, here's a really interesting textbook nuance to keep in mind. Even though close substitutes are completely absent, distant substitutes can still pop up. For instance, a city electricity board operates as a monopoly. If you want your lights on, you buy from them. But standalone generator sets do technically exist. Sure, they provide power, but let's be real, they're clunky, super expensive to run, and definitely not a seamless swap. So they act as a distant substitute, which just isn't enough of a threat to shake the monopoly's core dominance. Okay, feature number 3, closed entry. This is all about how they lock the gates.
When an industry is printing money, competitors naturally want to rush in and get a piece of the action. But monopolies stop this dead in its tracks by throwing up incredibly high barriers to entry. We're talking legal, natural, or even man-made fortresses. Things like patent rights, strict copyrights, or exclusive government operating laws. Then you have economies of scale, where the existing company is just so massive and entrenched that a new, smaller competitor couldn't possibly survive the massive startup costs. The whole industry is effectively locked down. And the financial so what here is absolutely crucial. Under normal, healthy competition, firms eventually settle into earning normal profits. But because these gates are permanently bolted shut to any competitors, the monopolist secures an unbelievable financial advantage. They get to lock in supernormal or abnormal profits indefinitely. They literally get to keep all the winnings to themselves. So, with the fortress built and all competitors firmly locked outside, we've got to ask a very practical question. How does a monopoly actually wield this maximum market power, day in and day out?
That brings us to feature 4, the firm acting as the ultimate price maker. In a perfectly competitive market, firms have zero power. They just have to swallow whatever the going rate is. But here, the sole producer completely controls the supply line. Since they control the volume of goods actually entering the market, they become a true price maker or price setter. They are literally making the rules of the game. If they decide they want to raise the price, they just artificially restrict the supply. Simple as that. And finally, feature number 5, price discrimination. This is the strategic art of charging different rates.
This is where it gets incredibly strategic. Price discrimination happens when a producer sells the exact same product to different buyers at entirely different prices. And here's the kicker. This price difference has absolutely nothing to do with how much it costs to supply the product. Because they have total, absolute control over the market, monopolies can effectively segment their buyers and charge them whatever maximizes their own profit.
If we follow the money, we can see exactly how this plays out in real life. Take electricity boards. They might routinely charge a much cheaper rate for agricultural use, but turn around and charge a higher rate to power your home. Hospitals might offer lower operation fees for poor patients while charging wealthier patients significantly more. And railways? They'll offer lower freight rates for essential products like food and coal, but then completely jack up the price for shipping other goods. It's the exact same electricity, the exact same medical procedure, and the exact same train journey, but priced entirely differently based purely on who's footing the bill. As we wrap up this explainer on the sole ruler of the market, I'm going to leave you to ponder one final thought. We've seen how they lock the gates, how they dictate the prices, and how they expertly segment their buyers. If those barriers are permanently locked shut and those abnormal profits are practically guaranteed, who is truly paying the price for this absolute market power? Definitely something to chew on the next time you pay a utility bill. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the mechanics of the world around you.